Hi there, welcome to another Stellaris Dev Diary number 96, a text and talk, DOOMSTACKS and ship design, and much more. Look at that. This is probably the longest I've ever read DOOMSTACKS. DOOMSTACKS are going to be nerfed a bit. It's explained how and why. Then we have ship reactors that are going to be ship specific from now on. No more like in here. They're now in here. If armor, shields and hull, how they work is going to be changed. Missiles and hull damage the same. As you can see here, hull damage, because yeah, this is going to be changed, so they need to change the way missiles work. Combat computers also are going to be changed, and you can see how here. Artillery computers, line computers, picket, swarm. Then we have war doctrines that also influence how your ships and your ship's AI behaves. And that is all. And as you can see here, there is some edict changes, and maybe this is something too. So let's begin with that whole thing. I'm scrolling up. I'm still scrolling up. Now I've reached that. So yeah, DOOMSTACKS. So they're tackling the Lanchester's laws. The problem that a slightly bigger force will beat the slightly less big force over proportionally, and the bigger force will nearly lose nothing. So 13k force versus 10k force, 13k force nearly loses nothing. So that's a problem. And how is that problem composed? First, they're going on about that. So always a losing proposition. So the way that problem is, force disparity combat bonus is what they're introducing to combat that. But the way this is that it is working in Stellaris that you should always flee from a larger force, and that you should always attack a smaller force, and that it's very risky to split up your forces and do some tactical maneuvers, because you'll be gobbled up if they catch you with a larger force. I mean, a way to get around this is to use very quick ships like corvettes and things, and specialized leaders for that. But apparently that was too complicated for them, and it's really a problem with the DOOMSTACKS. It is really a problem. It is an expanded problem from the naked corvette problem that we had, that superior numbers almost always led to a win due to the weapons on battleships that led to overkills, and so were incredibly ineffective. And this is also the case in older space games, like, for example, Master of Orion 2. That is often quoted as a masterpiece. And one of the tactics there is to swarm the enemy. It's actually turn-based battles there. You swarm your enemy with a lot of smaller ships that have rockets that can only shoot like once or twice, but the enemy will be destroyed and you will win by a gargantuan plus. It's just, there's no way for the smaller force, first from the numbers and then also from the strength, to survive that initial burst. Like you usually have then some ships with lasers to clean the rest up, and the others are like target practice for remaining enemies and will flee at the proportionate time. But so they are introducing here a force disparity combat bonus. So the smaller force is assumed to have better maneuver and better organization, because smaller units have that. So they will gain a bonus to firing speed. As you can see here, force disparity combat bonus. And so this increases the chance of yeah, that is a nice example. Like 1 corvette versus 30.9k. This increases the chance of smaller and technologically advanced fleets to win such situations. Not in this case, but in general. Then decisive battles. Yeah, that's the second problem. So ship disengagement. You usually had to wait for that retreat button when things went south or went wrong, or however you'd call it. And now you will have ships automatically fleeing when ship health, I'd call it, is below 50%. Depending on the amount of damage inflicted and on the ship class. Smaller ships have an easier time disengaging than larger ones. So that is good for the smaller ships. They can disengage quicker now. So if you have strike forces, tactical strike forces for strategic targets, they will be composed of smaller corvettes because they can flee. And they will now flee automatically. As you can see here, ship has disengaged from combat and will rejoin the fleet at the end of the battle. The end of the battle is either a win and the fleet stays here, or it's a loss and the fleet goes missing and appears in a system that is remotely friendly. Will be forced to make an emergency FTL jump. So if the fleet engaged in battle has only disengaged ships, it will become missing in action, limping home heavily damaged. So if the combat ends without the fleet making an emergency FTL jump, Manual of Force, the disengaged ships will rejoin the fleet at the end of the battle, damaged and in need of repair certainly, otherwise normally operational. So the chance for a ship to disengage is also affected by various modifiers such as terrain, galactic terrain, which they're introducing. Like systems have sort of abilities, have properties that will change the nature of war in them. And whether the ship is in friendly territory or not. And war doctrines, that is also something. That is further below. We have already seen that. And problem 3, lack of need for admirals. So empires only need a single admiral. Well, this is, yeah, you only need a single admiral. You can go for a bunch of them, specialized at ship class or like that, but it will be disproportionately costly. So a single admiral will usually suffice and will be enough. So, they have introduced command limit. Is a limit on how large one individual fleet in your empire can be. So, the admiral will no longer have thousands of ships under them, but they will have a fixed limit for now. Admiral skill does not impact it for now. The reason for this is that we do not want a fleet's command limit to suddenly drop due to the death of an admiral or other temporary factors that would force frequent and annoying reorganizations of your fleets. So that's going to be interesting if that works and how that works. It's generally a nice idea. However, one might, I imagine, lift that limit up with the stronger AIs or computers That would make sense, like for the organization. So the organization of a fleet is going to be, that is the idea around all of things like that, like the combat bonus or that. So the organization is limited by the size and not by the ability, but by, I don't know, some internal logic. So the DOOMSTACKS will be nerfed, but of course they will still usually win, but it will be much more costly for them to progress instead of being the unstoppable juggernaut force. So what they believe that these changes, together with many other changes we're making, Starbase's FTL rework will naturally change the way wars are fought away from Doomstack primacy. Certainly there will still be wars decided by large-scale engagements of both sides' navies, and certainly it will sometimes be advantageous to keep all of your fleets in one place, but this should no longer be the only way to play. There should be many new tactical and strategic opportunities available to players in how they use their navies. Well, praise them. That would be really good, because that is exactly the thing that has gotten me about like combat. Early on in Stellaris, you could abuse the AI in combat by sending tons of small ships in all directions, and then the AI would break down. And now it's basically they follow your largest force, and you can abuse that too a bit. But generally the war will always be largest force against largest force, and then whoever wins, wins the war. So that is kind of boring. And it is also, I mean, in space, it should be, from the logic, hard to capture another force. I mean, there's so much. If you don't willingly fight someone in space, they're never gonna reach you. Probably that's my theory. So if they don't come up for a duel, like in old times the armies would on their battlefields, so to say, then you will never have a decision. You will have these forces flying around until the end of time, following each other up. And this is often the case now in Stellaris. If you have slightly less quick ships than the opponent, but have a larger force, then all you do is chase their ships around for a while until they do some foolish decision or you have an incredible amount of luck. So now to ship reactors. Most significant change is the way ship power works. So reactors are not a component like any other. Each ship now has a reactor with a certain power output depending on ship class and technology. Starting Corvette has a Corvette fission reactor outputting 75 power. 0-point battleship reactor gives you 1550 power to balance between weapons, shields, and orcs or utilities. Well, this is on the one hand good, on the other hand, I don't know. It gave you so much freedom. This is going to unify the ship designs a little bit more. I don't know if I like that, but they have added a little bit of flexibility. They've created a new line of utilities called Reactor Boosters that go in the orc slot here and provide some extra power for the ship, allowing smaller power deficiencies to be addressed without needing to downgrade components. Okay, that is a fix for that. Hopefully that is enough to make... I mean, if they make war better and then ship design less good, I don't know. I mean, it's overall gonna be better, but I'd hate to lose the freedom of ship design. We'll see how that plays out. I mean, it's only a theory. It is not fact until then. So, now armor, shields, and hull. Armor has been problematic. You could make ships nearly invincible, like high armor battleships. That was really cool at the start of the game. Like you had your invincible juggernauts, and that was it. And Well, so we created a formula for mapping armor to damage reduction that pretty much nobody understands. Well, no, that's not true. A lot of people understand. Can largely be broken down into put some armor on your cruisers and battleships, ignore it on corvettes and destroyers. Yeah, that's what you understand if you look at the formula. It's not that... I think a lot of people understand that. I understand it in a basic way, and there are people that understand it so well that their designs are praised so much that they just have the best designs in the game, so they pretty much understand it very, very well. But they want to change this now to make it easier to understand. So let's see, what do they want to do that? They've decided to rework armor to work more like shields and create a more direct trade-off between the two. That is on the one hand good. Each point of armor is now effectively one extra hit point for the ship, forming a new health bar between hull and shields. Okay, so it's extra hit points that are not hit points but called armor. It offers the same amount of extra health as shields of the same level, but unlike shields will not normally not repair itself over time, instead requiring the ship to head to a starbase for repairs to restore its armor. So in Mass of Orion 2 they had a similar system, and armor and ships were damaged first, and after that, if you had armor piercing weapons, you could damage the systems, and then some of your, for example, weapons would be unusable and stuff. To have that system would be perfect, but let's see how they did it like here. However, armor has the advantage of not costing any power, is more a reliable protection, as unlike shields it cannot be bypassed by missile weapons. Different weapons will do different amounts of damage to armor, shields and hull. But are very, for example, autocannon stretch shields and hull, but are very weak against armor. And there are new components and resources that reward specialization. By, for example, making you choose between boosting all armor or shields on a ship, making it so that specialized ships more effective but vulnerable to other ships built to counter them. So you can have... It finally makes a lot of sense to not have the compromise ship. Or it makes more sense. It was still good at the start, like to have specialized ships, but it might be even better to have a mix of specialized ships under now different admirals. So, and the admirals might have other fitting traits to your fleet. Maybe you have a corvette admiral that has combat speed increased. That is very powerful for corvettes, so they near into their battle range that is good for them very quickly, and they are specialized for, I don't know, a lot of shields and a lot of speed, for example. So that might be it. Like, and that mix of the torpedo, is that a torpedo still? It's in the torpedo slot, and it's like that small laser is pretty terrible for a specialized ship, probably because they've vastly different ranges. You would want to have a different range, a unified range in a specialized ship. So, finally, direct effectiveness of armor and shields relative to hull has been increased. And the ship can now have armor shield hit points directly comparable to its hull hit points. And the ship can now have armor shield hit points directly comparable to its hull hit. Okay, alright. So you can balance it out. And it's like different forms that can be targeted by different weapons. So, yeah, it's rock, paper, scissors, armor, whatever. It's a new mini game. So, and now missiles and hull damage. Now, first they are bypassing, they're telling us of the missiles problem, and now missiles and hull damage are going to be changed. Missiles got a buff, and now they're still off an odd spot with no particular role of their own other than simply being somewhat more efficient weapons that are hard countered by point defense. Only exception to this is torpedoes that have their own dedicated slot and purpose bypassing shields and destroying heavily armored ships. But even that slot has the rather ill-suited energy torpedoes that aren't torpedoes at all, but just a regular energy weapon, resulting in even more confusion and diffusion. Yeah, the energy torpedoes were always kind of a little bit head-scratch for me. A nice idea, but what is an energy torpedo? I couldn't even imagine. I mean, it's okay, it's science fantasy, but still, well... Now they've decided to make all missiles more similar to torpedoes, so that torpedo slot is the only slot now, now it gets in which you can put missile weapons, making it so that our missiles bypass shields entirely. So, will you be able to have the freedom? I mean, you have these slots that you can build in your ships. It would be nice if you had the freedom to freely choose the slots that are there. That would be the freedom to make up for the increased streamlining. That would be cool, so you can also only have torpedoes. Like that would be cool, I think. So that would go into more specialization. Instead of having to mix that is making me itch. So, here, in addition to this, we've also made a change to ships that have taken hull damage. Damaged ships will have their speed and combat ability reduced all the way down to around 50% reduction when they are nearly dead. So, this is what I was talking about earlier, when like they get damaged, their machines, their slots get damaged, and they might have fallouts in their function, which is totally Master of Orion 2 work. So, means that missiles, unless stopped by point defense, are now a weapon explicitly for softening up the enemy by damaging and reducing the effectiveness of their ships, slipping through shields and wreaking havoc directly on our enemy armor and hull, and on their effectiveness. Also means that empires that want to invest heavily in the power of missiles will need to use designs and ship classes that can pack torpedo slots, instead of simply putting missiles on everything that would normally mount a different weapon. Still different missiles with different roles. Torpedoes are slow and inaccurate but excellent at punching through armor. Swarmer missiles are poor against armor but wreak havoc on hull, and are ideally suited to overwhelming enemy PD. Energy torpedoes have been removed from the torpedo slot and now are instead a large slot weapon, the equivalent of kinetic artillery for energy weapons. Okay, whatever. I mean, that last thing. Alright. And now, combat computers change. So, reintroduction of choosing combat computers for designs. Okay, and this is making me happy again, that there's a choice again. So you always had the same combat computer for a while, and that was, I was like, I don't know. Why would we even have a tech for that then? Why you could upgrade it with, I don't know. So why is it even a choice if you can only choose better? Like, why would you choose less good? Now you have a choice again. So you can choose a swarm computer. Ships with swarm computers charge at the enemy and make attack runs on the enemy, similar to strikecraft. Corvettes with maybe torpedoes. Picket ships with picket computers advance forward and engage the enemy at close range. Also like corvette-ish, small craft thing. It should be easy to see how that works. These computers work on large ships. Line ships with line computers remain at medium range and fire at the enemy. The boring ones. Artillery ships with artillery computers hang back and fire at the enemy from maximum possible range. Yeah, I mean, that also opens up roleplay, right? If you have a very defensive race, you could go all artillery. Hey, we're staying back. Come to us. Come to us. Come at me. Come at me, ship bro. Still do not want one ship class to be able to fill every possible role. You've still restricted which computers are available to which classes. For example, corvettes can choose swarm or picket. There's always at least 2 choices available for your design. Oh, come on. Come on. I mean, a battleship would be very bad at swarming because they're very slow, in theory, but maybe someone would find a nice method. Now, war doctrines. The introduction to war doctrines. New policy that becomes available once the interstellar fleet tradition, society, technology, new technology has been researched and allows you to pick an overall strategic military doctrine for your fleets based on how you intend to fight. For example, defense in depth doctrine gives a bonus to ship combat ability inside friendly territory, ideal for defensive wars. So if you're like playing with a harmony tradition, even better. While the hit and run doctrine increases the chance of your ships disengaging from combat and the time you need to be in battle before using emergency FTL. Be perfect for players that want to use raiding or skirmishing tactics. I like that. I really love that instantly. So that will support your tactics here. Yeah, it could be seen as a school that the pilots are learning to behave in that case a little more like this or that. I love it. I mean, yeah. So, and yeah, these edicts here, healthcare campaign. So, that was all. Very small, right? Oh, well, next week, technology in Cherryh H. I wanted to make a new technology guide. I stopped it because once I heard about the changes in Cherryh H, I was like, they're going to change technology a lot. And what are they doing? They're changing technology a lot. How tech tiers and progression is changing even. Oh, I'm so happy I didn't do this. December 7th happens to be the release date of the Humanoids Species Pack. That is fun. So, we'll see how that goes. I think it's, at the majority, it's a positive change, but I want to see how it plays out. I'm very curious about this. What is your opinion? I would be very interested to hear it. And as always, if you like to subscribe, I'm also collecting all the Dev Diary videos I make and the Dev Diary original links on the blog. I've linked that in a giant Cherryh H page that is covering all the Dev Diaries from the beginning of the Cherryh H era to, yeah, probably until it's released, right? And so if you're interested to reread what is coming, and or if you like just want to look at last week's Dev Diary and don't want to search it so much, just go there. I'm ordering it there, and yeah, newest ones up there, oldest ones down below, usual order. So if you want to choose that, it should help you. And otherwise, happy gaming to you, and see you in one of the next videos, either in the Stellaris campaigns or in the Dev Diaries or in UU4. I don't know. Choose what you like. I'd be happy to have you here again. Have a good time. Until next time.